Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and you're listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box, where I help you build a homeschool that fits your unique family. Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and I'm so glad that you're here today. We are going to continue on with our Homeschooling by Subject series, and today we will cover composer study. Music has been an integral part of history since the beginning. From the Psalms of David to your favorite Amazon playlist or Spotify stations today, every culture and every time period has used music for expression, pleasure, and even a high form of worship. Music clearly carries meaning. Music tells us how to feel. While the words are often important, it is the notes being played that dictate what those words mean. And when you listen to music without words, there's no loss. The combination of notes can evoke joy or sadness, excitement or calm. Think of music in the background of a movie. We know suspense, fear, sentiment, or happiness based on the notes being played. You are forming your child's tastes in the preschool and school years, and what is being poured into his ears, and consequently his soul, matters. It matters a great deal, and it stays with us for a long time. I bet every Zennial listening can sing the words to their favorite show's theme song, just like I can. As we talked about with memory work, remembering allows us to pass culture from one generation to the next. And if you grew up in the 90s like me, you very likely watched a lot of TV shows. Well, what do you want your kids to be able to sing or hum when they have children of their own? Some of the music you introduce in your homeschool may stay with your kids their entire life. What is the soundtrack of your home, of their childhood? We've covered hymns and folk songs in this series, and today we're going to cover timeless, though wordless music written by names that have carried on through the centuries. This is composer study. Charlotte Mason believed it was important not to hear this music randomly, but to take time to get to know the style and music of each composer that you're studying. She said this: "Let the young people hear good music as often as possible, and that under instruction. It is a pity we like our music as we like our pictures and our poetry mixed. So there are few opportunities of going through, as a listener, a course of the works of a single composer. But this is to be aimed at for the young people. Let them study occasionally the works of a single great master until they have received some of his teaching and know his style." Good music is not age sensitive. The whole family will benefit from composer study, and it's an easy thing to lay into your everyday life. If you have never done composer study, I encourage you to consider it, no matter where you are at on your homeschooling journey. So what is the goal of composer study? Simply to become familiar with the composer and enjoy his or her work. Composer study is meant to provide an immersive experience by focusing on one composer at a time, including the reading of a short biography. The hope is for the child to develop a relationship with the music and become familiar enough that he can recognize, oh, that's Mozart. When you are starting out, try to choose the most popular composers first. So this would be Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, Bach, Chopin, as they are foundational and inspirational for so many who come after them. I like to align composer study with history whenever possible. So right now we're studying the 1800s, which makes it a great time to immerse ourselves in Antonin Dvorak or Johannes Brahms. I also align it with the seasons if possible. I love to study Tchaikovsky in the winter, kicking off with the Nutcracker at Christmas and moving on to Swan Lake and the 1812 Overture and other classics throughout the winter. Another example is to study Handel during the spring. Though Handel's Messiah is now synonymous with the Christmas season, the Hallelujah Chorus was originally conceived and intended for Easter, so it makes it a great fit for spring. What you choose to study will vary greatly by family, so just pick something you'd like. Remember, it's nice to know a little about the composer, especially where he or she is from, the time period the composer was popular, and the names of some of the more famous or favorite pieces, but don't lose sight of the goal. Your student should be familiar with some of the composers and enjoy listening to the music. All right, so how much time do we spend on composer study? So we usually spend about one term, which is 12 weeks, on each composer. But we do composer study only once a week. Composer study should take about 10 minutes each time, and it works really well during morning time, but you can also just do it in the car, the listening part anyway, or in the background of your home throughout the week. Planning. The first step is to choose one composer per term. I also like to be mindful of the kids' ages when choosing a composer. So some composers are perfect choices for younger ones, like Camille Saint-Saëns with his Carnival of Animals, or Sergei Prokofiev with his Peter and the Wolf. Little ones love these. Not that you can't listen to them if you're older, but they're especially popular with the little ones. Listening to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the child prodigy, may not actually produce the alleged Mozart effect, but his music is still pleasing to young ears. And don't be afraid to follow your family's interests here. Every Star Wars and Harry Potter fan should study John Williams at some point, and every Peanuts fan should know Vince Guaraldi's name. I started with my favorite composers when we started this because kids will enjoy what you are passionate about. Usually we study a new composer each term, but sometimes we'll cover someone for a second time if a younger sibling was too young to remember the first time around. I find a short, well-written biography on the composer and a collection of his best work on YouTube or Amazon Music or Spotify, if that's you, and add it to our composer study playlist. I play this playlist in the background as a way to review. Usually once a week. For us, that's often Tuesday mornings while we're getting ready. And that is the master list of all the composers we've ever studied. So I like to put it on shuffle. Okay, so the first day that you introduce composer study, and actually every day that you do composer study, it's pretty much the same. I introduce the composer by reading a short biography, a little bit each week until we've completed it. And then I have them narrate back about that part of the composer's life. Just a reminder on narration, it's good to do a recap, especially on these subjects that you only do once a week. So you might open up with, what did we learn about Mozart last time? Tell me something from last time. And then you read the new information, and then they tell back about what you learned that day. So after we read from the biography, we listen to a different piece by the composer each week. If it's a really, really long piece, we don't listen to the whole thing, but the main points. If our reading from that day mentions a particular piece, that is the piece we'll choose. If not, we just go in order of his most popular pieces. And for exams, all I have them do is hum their favorite piece, tell me the name of it if they can, and tell a little bit about the composer. Most likely if they can say around what time period he lived or where he was from, or a funny detail about him that they took away. The goal is to do as much as they can and just celebrate what they remember. Remember, you're forming a relationship. So you don't want to turn this into a quiz. You just want them to connect. You want to know how they connected with that composer. And sometimes the case is they did not connect with the composer and they really didn't care for his music, and that's okay too. I would recommend choosing from a different style the next time just to shake things up. Not everybody is going to enjoy every composer, and that's okay. All right, so on to the resources. I have put together a composer study master list for you. It is organized alphabetically, and it's also organized chronologically, and it's organized by nationality. So depending on what angle you want to come from, if you want to align it with history, or if you're studying a certain country and you want to pull a composer from there, you can do whatever you'd like. Okay, and I've also included a suggested composer study schedule. So that's going to help you align with the seasons, and also, starting with the foundational composers, and if you have younger children. So that is all available to you free if you go to the show notes and open up my Substack article on composer study. If you're not subscribed to my Substack yet, that is essentially the written version of this podcast, but I also put out 2 additional resources throughout the month. So you'll want to go get signed up for that. There's a free membership and a paid one as well, whatever one works for you. Okay, so go get that composer study master list. And after that, I've also made available, and you can get this on my Substack as well, a composer study printout. So we go online and find a picture of the composer, we print it, we cut it out, we glue it on this template that I've attached for you, and there's a spot where you can fill in the composer's name and the dates he lived and his nationality and the names of some of his famous work. So what we do is we fill out one of these for each composer we study, and then we store them in a binder chronologically. So this has helped me, one, just remember who we've studied, because it starts to add up. 3 composers a year is a lot when you've been homeschooling for a long time. So that is one just practical aspect, is it helps us keep up. But the kids also love when I pull it out to flip back through, and it's a way to review, and they can remember that we studied different composers, and that usually triggers a memory about that composer and his music. So you can get that for free on my Substack as well, that printable. Beyond that, Ambleside Online has a composer study master list as well that you can check out. The spines that I like, there are 3 books, really just 3 books that I've used for all of my children's education for composer study. So you can just buy one of these resources and have it the whole time. It's pretty great. Okay, the first recommendation is called The Great Composers by Wendy Thompson. It's good, but it's a bit textbookish, but comprehensive, and it's divided by movements and music, so like the Baroque period and the Romantic period, things like that. So that's kind of nice. The second resource is Lives of the Musician, Good Times, Bad Times, and What the Neighbors Thought, and that's by Kathleen Kroll. It's better. There are funny details and caricature illustrations, so a lot of the younger kids really enjoy this because they'll tell silly details about the composer that are fun. And then the third resource is actually my absolute favorite. It's called Great Composers, 18 Makers of Music by Warren S. Freeman. This is the best resource I recommend, but it's really hard to find. It was out of print here and there for a while. I think it was written in the 40s or 50s, and it is a true living book. It's really well done. And it has 18 different options. So that's a lot of composers. If you do 3 a term, that'll cover you for the first half of your kid's education. So check those out. Those are my recommendations for that. All right, and now some other So those were the spines that you can kind of buy it once and use it over and over. But now I've got recommendations depending on how old your kiddos are. So the first one is for if you have littles or early elementary kids. I highly recommend Baby Einsteins. They have a wonderful DVD called Meet the Orchestra. Yes, I said DVD. Just hang with me. Remember, my kids are big. You can find it now as a playlist on YouTube, and it goes over what the different instruments are and how they sound, and it's really, really good. Also, Little Einsteins. My youngest, who's now 12, really enjoyed this show. She had a CD that she loved, and I actually found it. It's discontinued, of course, but I found it on YouTube and a couple other places. So those links are in my Substack article as well. You can get to that in the show notes if you want to check those out. I'm sure there's other playlists if you just look it up, but they really do have a good selection of composer music that the younger ones love. And it's enjoyable to listen to as well, which is really important that you love the music. Okay, the other recommendation for littles and elementary is the Story of the Orchestra series. It's a book. It's a book series. It's an interactive, artfully designed storybook experience. Hopefully, I think they're still writing them. These are relatively new. So hopefully there will be more, but currently they cover the following titles. They've got 4 seasons in one day, which covers Vivaldi, Swan Lake, The Nutcracker, or Sleeping Beauty. Those are 3 different books that all covered Tchaikovsky. They've got Carnival of the Animals for Cezanne, In the Hall of the Mountain King, which covers Grieg, Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which covers Mendelssohn, The Magic Flute, which is Mozart, The Planets, which is Holst, who is a modern composer, and Hansel and Gretel, which is Humperdinck. So a pretty good range there. And, it's one of those beautiful storybooks where they get to push the button and the music plays. And so it's a big pull for littles. The other recommendation is the Beethoven's Wig CDs, which you can get, not on CD, but just on Amazon or YouTube. These shaped our homeschool in the preschool and early elementary years. I can still remember the lyrics to many, many of the songs. This collection is a huge reason why my kids, to this day, all love classical music, and they're familiar with so many composers. I cannot recommend these enough. Essentially, they take a clip of a song, so like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, okay, and they'll take a clip of it, and then they come up with a catchy song that they sing over it. So like the lyrics to the first one is, Beethoven's wig is very big, all right? And that hooks, it connects for your child that the music that they're hearing was written by Beethoven, and then they tell little things about Beethoven as they're singing. So it's really catchy and packs a lot in, and they're super short. They're probably like 2 minutes a piece, the songs. So really enjoyable. But there are 5 CDs in that collection. So, or you can go on my Substack, and I have links for all of them. Like I said, you can just download them now. You don't have to buy the CDs. All right. The next category is going to be for early elementary and beyond. So Maestro Classics is a phenomenal resource. We also had all of those CDs. We still have them, but again, you can download them now. We especially loved The Story of Swan Lake, The Nutcracker featuring Jim Weiss, The Carnival of Animals, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and My Name is Handel. These are stories and song. So these are really, really great to listen to, like at rest time when they're little, or even just throughout the day or in the car. These are fantastic, and we've loved these. And there's a lot more than those, but those were just our favorites. The Story of the Orchestra is a great book that goes through each section of the orchestra. Meet the orchestra is another good option. Again, links to all this on the Substack article. If you're looking to just put music on the TV in the background and have it on during the day, Halidon Music is fantastic. We listen to this station or channel every single day, pretty much. It is great for kids of any age. I especially love the super fun themes and images on their videos. So, like I said, I play it on the TV in the background throughout the day. Another perk is that they list the name of the piece and the composer in the bottom banner. So you will actually know what you're listening to, which is helpful. A few of our absolute favorite videos, although there are just so many good ones, and they make updates all the time. So there's always new ones coming out, and they're, seasonal, which is fun. But a few of our favorites are Classical Music is Not Boring, Mozart Brain Power, Classical Music When You're on a Deadline. I have written more than a few Substacks listening to this one. Music for Reading. This is our staple rest time music. Classical Music Swagger. Music to Make Your Brain Shut Up. Classical Music for People Who Don't Like It. And 50 classical music pieces everyone knows with titles. Because that can be frustrating. You recognize the title, you recognize the music, but you have no idea what the name of it is or who wrote it. And so it's pretty fun to have this going, and then you can just look over at your screen and there's the answer. That is a lot of resources, but I will tell you, if you even just pick a few of these and start weaving them into your day, classical music is going to become a part of your family culture. Your kids are going to love it without even realizing that, maybe other people don't love it or it's not popular to love it anymore. And so it's a very good way to work it into your homeschool, but also into your family culture and your life. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you are loving this podcast, please rate, review, share, do anything to get the word out. It really helps to spread the message to other listeners just like you who need some encouragement. And until next time, keep living outside the box.